So we're going to look at a new take on an American high school. The mission of this new school is to create well-rounded students who will thrive in their future endeavors. This includes expanding the subjects which are considered core to a curriculum. The core typically is math, science, reading, but through this new space opened up through the elimination of standardized tests around those core subjects, there will be more room for both the school and the students to expand their learning opportunities, which will lead to more well-rounded and well-prepared adults. So the basics, it'll be called the Core Needs School. It'll be located in Minnesota, probably either Minneapolis, if we need to name a city, or else something in the south part of the state, one of those south suburb schools. It'll be a high school, and it'll be public. Why this location? Minnesota is one of the best places in the country to test the waters on a new kind of schooling, as it's already a very successful with its education nationally, ranking 6th in the country. And the state is very good at funding its schools, especially public ones. The core needs of the school, basically what the name is we're going to shift away from standardized testing and all those difficulties surrounding it, all those stresses surrounding it, and they'll just not exist. What will replace those standardized tests is a focus on different skills and subjects that will help students in the future outside of a school environment. So while we're still preparing them for college, there also is going to be an emphasis on if a student were to enter the workforce right out of high school, what would they need to do to be a functioning adult? And one of the other needs is make sure students are more emotionally aware and know how to reach out to the resources that will help them with their varying needs, whether it be mental health issues, whether it be physical health issues. And what this will lead to is, when we shift away from standardized tests, more specialization for the students, and they'll be able to focus their learning around what they want to pursue in the future. So we're going to discuss the problems with standardized testing and why it just shouldn't exist at this school. With standardized testing, it's led to so much rigidity in our schools because funding has been tied to the standardized tests. So the curriculum will become centered around the test rather than the needs of the student in the future, because and then inflexibility. So students are not able to pursue other subjects not deemed a part of this core. Even if this core is important, the removal of the standardized testing will open up for other subjects to allow students to further pursue. So while there will still be an emphasis on these core subjects, it'll be further expanded, leading to more students being able to do more things. And again, with the funding tied to it, the schools have no choice but to focus their resources on being successful at the standardized tests. Because if they don't, they just won't exist in the future. The skills for adult life. So many ideas. Driver's education is already taught within schools in Minnesota. I know at my high school, we also taught CPR training. But life skills classes are already within our high school. One thing that I think needs to be very focused on is personal finance, focusing on taxes, paying off loans, and saving. We're in a second economic crisis, and we've already had an economic crisis. Why not create a more educated group of people to navigate these things and maybe prevent them from happening in the first place? Another important thing that I think should happen is basic mechanical work. Being able to change a tire, I think, is a pretty important ability to have. Just being able to function independently. Also, there will be education on public resources and their uses, whether it be using a library, whether it be going to the DMV and having to stand in line and knowing how to fill out forms. Being able to utilize public resources and also navigate public resources is important to functioning and being successful in adult life. What we'll do with mental health and focusing on the emotional and mental health needs of our students is there will be an expansion of staff related to mental health. most schools have a counselor, maybe one school psychologist. Many other, there will be maybe a little bit of expansion on that staff, but also there will be a way for almost all teachers to be able to be reached out to, maybe a little bit of training relating to young adolescents' mental health. One thing that they'll do is a class focused on mental health. There's already a generic health class. It's very easy to shove mental health awareness, mental health maturity into a class like that and just have a unit based on it. One of the things that will just help mental health in the first place is steering away from those standardized tests, because if everything hinges on that test, students might get very torn down about it. So students will be able to pursue their goals much more freely with that burden taken off of them. So with this, the specialization, without this emphasis on these 3 mandatory core classes, the students will be able to specialize, making them more prepared for wherever they go in the future, whether it's post-secondary education or the workforce. If a student really is into being a mechanic, they can do auto shop classes. If a student is very into math, they can keep going on mathematics and be way ahead of the curve when they go to college. The core will just become expanded. If a student is unsure of what to do, they can just keep taking different things, and they'll still be at the same level as their peers, but they'll become more well-rounded individuals, and they'll be able to find where they want to go with their lives. And like I said, with the already just core subjects, math, science, reading, you be able to further specialize within that area of study. An example of this is you take a government class within high school. What if you want to take a political science class? You can keep expanding what you want to do and make for more successful students. Thank you very much. You guys have a good one.